Australia is home to the quokka, an animal so cute it broke the internet. The eastern brown snake, responsible for more human deaths than any other snake on the continent. The saltwater crocodile, the largest living reptile on Earth. And the cassowary, officially listed as the world's most dangerous bird. Today we're counting down 10 of Australia's most extraordinary wild animals, and exactly why keeping any of them as a pet is a catastrophic mistake. Before we begin, if you enjoy documentaries that reveal the truth about the world's most fascinating wildlife, subscribe now. Number 10 is already surprising. Number 1 has killed people who knew exactly what they were doing. Number 10. The quokka. The world's happiest animal and one of its most fragile. The quokka has been called the happiest animal on Earth, and if you've seen the photographs, you understand why. That round face, those dark eyes, the expression that looks like a permanent, contented smile. It turned Rottnest Island off Perth into a selfie pilgrimage. The quokka approaches without hesitation. The image goes everywhere, and every time it does, someone in the comments asks, "Can you keep one?" Why does an animal that seems so fearless, so friendly, die so easily in captivity? The answer reveals something most people never consider. The quokka's fearlessness isn't friendliness. It evolved on an island with no land predators, so it never developed the instinct to be afraid. In a domestic setting, that's not a charming trait. It's a profound vulnerability in an animal that has no idea what it has walked into. Quokkas travel up to 1.5 kilometers per night foraging. A house is a cage with furniture. Without their specific wild diet of native grasses and plants, impossible to replicate in captivity, they develop lumpy jaw, a bacterial infection causing facial swelling, chronic pain, and in most cases death. In Western Australia, even touching a quokka without a wildlife license carries a fine of up to $50,000. The quokka selfie that earns 1,000 likes can follow you into a courtroom, and the animal that seemed to smile at you will be suffering long before you notice. But compared to the next animal on our list, the quokka's story is almost gentle, because number 9 doesn't die dramatically. It dies slowly, invisibly, while looking completely fine. Number 9. The blue-tongued skink, the beginner reptile that vets see constantly, and not for good reasons. Walk into almost any Australian reptile shop and ask for a beginner recommendation. Chances are they'll point to the blue-tongued skink. Docile, slow, legally available, strange-looking in a way people find genuinely appealing. The care sheet they hand you explains feeding and temperature. It rarely explains what happens inside the animal without precise ultraviolet lighting. In the wild, blue tongues spend their mornings basking on specific rocks at specific angles to absorb UVB radiation, the part of sunlight their bodies need to synthesize vitamin D3 and process calcium. Standard household lighting produces essentially none of it. Reptile UVB bulbs help, but they need replacing every 6 months regardless of whether they appear to be working, because the UV output dies long before the visible light does. Most owners never know. Without correct UVB, captive blue tongues develop metabolic bone disease. Legs soften, spines curve, bones fracture from stepping off a branch. Australian wildlife vets name it as one of the most consistently common conditions they treat in captive reptiles, and nearly every case was preventable. The blue tongue's docility in the tank is not contentment. Reptiles under chronic physiological stress simply stop moving. What looks like a calm pet is often an animal in the early stages of a condition that will end its life years too soon. Things only get worse from here. Number 8 doesn't just suffer in your home, it dismantles it. Number 8. The wombat, the house destroyer. Baby wombats in care are almost impossible to scroll past. Round, slow, bottle-fed, apparently affectionate. They've built a massive global following online and inevitably demand from people who want to keep one past the rescue phase. Here is what happens at adulthood, around 2 years of age. The animal now weighs 35 kilograms and is built, by millions of years of evolution, to excavate through compressed earth. Wombats dig burrows up to 30 meters long. Their claws rip through hardwood flooring in under a minute. Wildlife carers who've kept hand-raised wombats too long describe coming home to load-bearing walls undermined, concrete slabs cracked from below, floor joists fully exposed. Not because something went wrong, because the animal was doing exactly what it was built to do in your house. Their bite can fracture bones. They produce up to 100 cube-shaped droppings per night, a biological quirk that baffles researchers. deposited on elevated surfaces throughout their territory. Wombats are protected under federal law, and keeping one without authority is a federal offense. The real enforcement, though, usually comes from the wombat itself, within 6 months of maturity. The wombat can demolish your house, but the next animal destroys something far more devastating, its own body, from the inside out. Number 7. The sugar glider, the pet that dies of loneliness. The sugar glider is one of the most aggressively marketed exotic pets in the world. Small, wide-eyed, capable of gliding between your outstretched hands, often sold with a fleece bonding pouch so it sleeps pressed against your chest. In the United States, sugar gliders are sold in shopping mall kiosks. In Australia, they're the subject of a significant illegal trade. The pitch is nearly irresistible. What happens to a sugar glider taken from its social group, which is the only way any individual ever becomes available for purchase, is something the marketing never addresses. Sugar gliders live in wild colonies of up to 15 individuals. They communicate constantly. They maintain bonds the animals depend on physiologically, not just socially. Separate one, and something begins to break. Lone sugar gliders develop psychogenic alopecia, stress-induced self-mutilation. The animal chews through its own fur, then skin, then, in documented cases reviewed in veterinary literature, through its own abdominal wall. Owners who bought a single glider and were never told this are among those who've discovered animals that eviscerated themselves overnight. This is not an edge case. It is a documented, predictable outcome of solitary confinement in a species that is neurologically incapable of functioning without social contact. The bonding pouch is not a substitute. No amount of human proximity is. In Queensland, Victoria, and Western Australia, keeping a sugar glider without a permit is illegal. Airport seizures regularly involve live animals concealed in clothing. Many die before they reach their destination. Before we continue, here's something almost nobody realizes. The next 3 animals on this list are all legal to keep in at least one Australian state or territory. Legal. With permits, right now, and all 3 have sent their owners to hospital. Number 6. The kookaburra, the garden bird that became a weapon. People who grow up with kookaburras visiting their garden develop what feel like genuine relationships over years, recognizing individual birds, naming them, feeding them. That intimacy eventually makes someone wonder, could the bird that visits every morning just stay? A kookaburra removed from its territory does not behave like the garden visitor. It is an apex predator that kills snakes and lizards by bludgeoning them against hard surfaces, and in a domestic space, those surfaces are your furniture. Its call, charming at a distance, is a full-volume territorial alarm that begins before sunrise and carries for kilometers. Its beak can crush a snake's skull. Multiple wildlife carers in rehabilitation settings have required hospital treatment for lacerations from birds in their care. Not attacks, just a kookaburra being a kookaburra near a human hand. Possession without a license carries fines up to $22,000 in New South Wales. And removing one from its territory leaves gaps in family group ranges that affect snake and rodent populations across their area for years. The kookaburra sends people to emergency rooms, but number 5 has a name for what happens when it bites you. And the name is not reassuring. Number 5, the freshwater crocodile, the fake safe crocodile. Why would anyone legally keep a crocodile as a pet? In Queensland and the Northern Territory, with the right permit, you can. The freshwater crocodile, the freshie, has a reputation as the manageable alternative, under 2 meters, rarely attacking humans unprovoked. The reptile-keeping community has built a serious case for responsible ownership. The freshie at 40 centimeters is, in one sense, manageable. The freshie at 5 to 7 years old is a 1.5-meter animal, and it has not been domesticated in the interim. Domestication takes thousands of years and dozens of generations of selective breeding. A crocodile in a tank for 5 years is a wild animal that has been contained. Those are different things. The feeding response in a crocodile is a reflex, not a decision. Keepers who hand-feed juveniles regularly sustain bite injuries, not attacks. The animal struck at a moving object, and a hand was there. The bacteria in a crocodile's mouth, including Aeromonas hydrophylla, cause soft tissue infections resistant to standard antibiotics, requiring aggressive surgical treatment. The freshie is not safe. It is smaller than its saltwater cousin. That is the full extent of the distinction. And we still have 4 animals left, including 2 that have killed people who were trained, licensed, and experienced. Number 4 is an animal Australians have lived alongside for 5,000 years. It has never agreed to the arrangement. Number 4, the dingo. The dog that never became a dog. Dingo ownership is legal in South Australia and the Northern Territory with permits. Breeders exist. People buy pups every year, convinced that early socialization will produce something that behaves like a very intelligent dog. They are wrong in a very specific, well-documented way. The dingo has spent 3,500 to 5,000 years on a completely separate evolutionary track from domestic dogs. Dogs were selectively bred across that same period for traits that make them compatible with human life. Reduced aggression, responsiveness to social cues, a genetic disposition toward seeking human approval. Dingoes were not. The consequences are consistent. They scale 2-meter fences. They dig under concrete. They problem-solve containment with methodical persistence owners describe as insulting. Their prey drive is neurological. Every small animal in the household registers as prey. Multiple owners have come home to find their cats, guinea pigs, or small dogs dead. Not an attack, just a dingo doing what dingoes do. Welfare organizations report surrender spikes every year as animals reach sexual maturity at 12 to 18 months. Sanctuaries are at capacity. A domestically raised dingo cannot be released into the wild. It lacks the skills and can rarely be rehomed without the same outcome repeating. In 2022, a 77-year-old man in Western Australia was killed by a kangaroo he kept as a pet, the first fatal kangaroo attack in Australia since 1936. The dingo is considerably larger, faster, and more capable than a kangaroo. The parallel is not comforting. Only 3 animals remain and things are about to get significantly more serious. Number 3 is responsible for more deaths in Australia than any other snake. Number 2 is the largest living reptile on Earth. And number 1 is officially the most dangerous bird in the world. Number 3, the eastern brown snake, the silent killer. In Queensland, keeping an eastern brown snake is legal with a dangerous reptile license. The appeal is genuine. The eastern brown is fast, alert, and striking, and experienced keepers contribute to research and public safety. The argument for responsible licensed keeping, at its best, deserves serious consideration. And then there is what the eastern brown actually is. It is responsible for more human deaths in Australia than any other species of snake, not proportionally, not in certain regions. In total, it is the second most venomous land snake on Earth. Unlike the inland taipan, which holds first place but inhabits remote terrain where human contact is rare, the eastern brown lives across a vast range, including suburban backyards, farms, and garden sheds throughout eastern Australia. It is statistically the snake most likely to be in your yard right now. Its venom triggers consumption coagulopathy, a catastrophic collapse of the blood's clotting system, activating throughout the body at once, leaving the victim unable to stop bleeding from any wound. It strikes multiple times in rapid succession, up to 13 documented bites in a single encounter, faster than human visual response. Between 2000 and 2016, eastern brown snakes were responsible for 41% of all snakebite fatalities in Australia. Anti-venom exists and works when administered early and correctly. A snake safely contained for years can escape through a gap the owner never noticed. From that moment, the margin between bite and hospital and anti-venom is not a comfortable one. 2 animals left. Both have killed experienced keepers. Both are fully protected under Australian federal law, and they couldn't be more different from each other, except in the one way that matters most. Number 2, the saltwater crocodile, the largest predator on the list. In 2018, approximately 100 people in the Northern Territory held legal permits to keep crocodiles as pets. Why would someone keep the largest living reptile on Earth in a residential setting? The question answers itself once you understand what drives exotic animal ownership: status, fascination, the desire to possess something extraordinary. The saltwater crocodile is certainly that. An adult male reaches 6 meters and 1,000 kilograms. Its bite force, the highest ever recorded in a living animal, is strong enough to crush bone with the same effort a human uses to chew bread. It hunts using the death roll, seizing prey and spinning its entire body at speed until tissue tears and resistance ends. This works on a water buffalo, It works on a handler of 10 years' experience. The crocodile makes no distinction. Saltwater crocodiles cannot socialize with humans in any meaningful sense. They can learn to associate a specific person with food, which means they are more alert, more primed, more ready when that person enters the enclosure. Experienced handlers at accredited facilities with proper safety protocols and second responders have been killed by animals they had known for years. The animal was not malfunctioning. It was functioning perfectly. Saltwater crocodile attacks in Australia average 1 to 3 fatalities per year despite national management programs and decades of public education. The 100 permit holders in the Northern Territory were operating within the law. Legal is not the same as safe, and the crocodile has not been consulted on the terms of the arrangement. Only one animal left. It is the one that started this list in the title. It is the one with its own entry in the Guinness World Records, and it has killed people in both 1926 and 2019, under circumstances that any keeper of any dangerous animal should read very carefully. Number 1. The cassowary, the most dangerous bird on the planet. The 2007 Guinness World Records officially lists the southern cassowary as the world's most dangerous bird. During the Second World War, American and Australian troops in New Guinea received written orders from commanding officers to avoid them. The ornithologist Thomas Gilliard described its inner claw in 1958 as capable of severing a limb or opening an abdomen with a single kick. It runs at 50 kilometers per hour through dense rainforest. It can swim. It can jump. And on April 12, 2019, in Alachua County, Florida, a 75-year-old man named Marvin Hajos was killed by a cassowary he had been breeding on his property. He entered the enclosure. He fell to the ground. The bird attacked. His wife entered with a stun gun. By the time they reached the hospital, he had lost a substantial amount of blood. He died from his injuries. It was only the second recorded cassowary fatality in over 100 years. The first was in 1926, when 2 teenagers attacked one with clubs, and one of them died from the injuries the bird inflicted in response. Both fatalities share the same structure: a human in the cassowary's space, a cassowary that perceived a threat, no available retreat. In 2019, Hajos was experienced. He had protocols. He normally carried a shock stick into the enclosure. That day he had left it outside. He fell. The cassowary responded to a fallen object within striking range the way it responds to any threat, completely, efficiently, without hesitation, because it has no framework for distinguishing between a fallen predator and a fallen friend. A cassowary in captivity must be housed alone, too territorial even for its own species. Its wild range covers up to 30 square kilometers of tropical rainforest. The enclosure is not a habitat. It is a cell, and the animal inside did not negotiate the terms of its confinement. The cassowary doesn't malfunction when it kills someone. It functions perfectly. The problem every single time is the human who forgot what they were standing next to. The cassowary takes the first place spot. Every animal on this list is exactly what it evolved to be. The gap between what they are and what we want them to be doesn't close with time or love or the right enclosure. It is structural. It is permanent. And the cost of misunderstanding it falls almost entirely on them. Australia has extraordinary wildlife and strict laws that exist because this lesson was learned over and over at significant cost. If you want a relationship with it, that relationship is available. In national parks, in conservation areas, in your garden if the habitat is right. On the animal's terms, at the animal's distance, that is the only relationship they are offering. And when you see how extraordinary these animals truly are in the wild, it is enough. If Australia's wildlife surprised you, wait until you see what lives in its rivers and oceans. Our next video goes deeper, and the animals are even harder to believe. It's linked on screen right now. Thanks for watching. We'll see you there.